You have been waiting for them to return. But I tell you, the moment you stop waiting and start becoming, they will move heaven and earth just to find their way back to you. There is a version of you, so whole, so magnetic, so deeply rooted in your own worth, that your specific person cannot sleep at night without thinking of what they let go. And I tell you this not as a hope, I tell you this as a law. What you are about to hear will not just change how they see you, it will change how you see yourself forever. You have been running after someone who was never ahead of you. You have been sending messages, checking their profile, waiting for a sign, some small gesture that tells you they still care. And every time that notification is not from them, something inside you sinks a little deeper. I know this feeling. And I want you to hear me very carefully right now, because what I am about to tell you will change everything. Chasing is a confession. Every time you chase, you are declaring to the universe, to your own consciousness, that what you desire is outside of you, beyond you, and above you. You are telling yourself a story, and that story is a lie, because nothing you truly desire exists outside of your own awareness. Nothing, not your specific person, not their love, not their return. It all lives inside the infinite space of your own mind. So stop, just stop. Not because they are not worth it, but because you are worth more than what chasing does to you. Chasing shrinks you. It takes the most powerful creative force in the entire universe, your own consciousness, and turns it into a beggar standing at someone else's door. And you were not made to beg. You were made to embody. You were made to declare. You were made to be the thing that causes the whole world around you to rearrange itself. Now let me tell you what embodying truly means. It does not mean pretending. It does not mean forcing a smile when your heart is heavy. Embodying means going so deep into the truth of who you are that the false version of yourself, the one that is anxious, the one that is desperate, the one that is constantly refreshing their phone, simply has no room left to exist. Think about the version of you before the pain. Think about the version of you who laughed freely, who walked into a room and owned it, who never needed anyone's validation to feel complete. That version of you is not gone. That version is not lost. That version is your true state. And the only reason you have drifted from it is because you made someone else's opinion of you more real than your own. You gave them your power. And now it is time to take it back. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with the quiet, unshakable certainty that you are enough, right now, in this moment, exactly as you are. That certainty, that inner knowing, that deep settled feeling of wholeness, that is what draws people back. Not your words, not your tears, not your perfectly crafted text message at 2 in the morning. Your state draws them back. Because the people in your world are not responding to what you say or what you do. They are responding to what you are. They are responding to the frequency you are holding, the story you are telling yourself in the quiet moments, the assumption you carry about your own worth when no one is watching. So right now, not tomorrow, not when they text you back, not when things get easier. Right now, I want you to make a decision, a real decision, the kind that lives in your bones. Decide that you are done being a smaller version of yourself for someone who has not yet recognized your value. Decide that your wholeness is not dependent on their return. Decide that the most attractive, most magnetic, most irresistible thing you can ever do is become so deeply rooted in your own worth that their absence loses its power over you completely. Because the moment you stop chasing and start embodying, everything shifts. And that shift begins right now. That shift, that deep bone-level decision you just made, is not the end of the work. It is the beginning of something far more powerful than anything you have done before. Because now that you have reclaimed your state, now that you have stepped back into the truth of who you are, there is something else that needs your attention. Something that most people completely overlook. And it is this: the memories they hold of you. Think about it for a moment. Right now, somewhere in their mind, your specific person carries images of you. Moments, conversations, versions of you that were shaped by pain, by confusion, by the lowest points of your connection. They remember the argument. They remember the desperation. They remember the version of you that was running on empty, the version that begged, the version that was not yet standing in the fullness of what you truly are. And here is what I need you to understand. Those memories are not fixed. They are not locked in stone. They are not permanent truths carved into the universe. They are simply impressions. And impressions can be changed. Not out there, but in here. In the only place where all creation begins. In your own consciousness. This is what revision means. You go back, you close your eyes, you breathe, and you rewrite the scene. Not as it happened, but as it should have happened. You see yourself in that conversation standing tall, speaking with calm confidence, radiating the kind of quiet dignity that commands respect without demanding it. You feel the scene differently. You hear their voice responding to you differently. You let the new version of that memory become more real to you than the original ever was. And you do it with feeling. Always with feeling. Because feeling is the secret. Feeling is the language your consciousness understands. A dry mental image changes nothing. But a felt revision. One where you actually sense the warmth, the ease, the love in that reimagined moment. That reaches into the deepest layers of your mind and begins to rewrite the story. You are not lying to yourself. You are correcting a false record. Because the painful version of those memories, the one filled with lack and fear and grasping, that was never the truth of you. That was a person temporarily disconnected from their power. And now that you have reconnected, it is your right, your absolute right, to revise every moment that does not reflect who you truly are. Do this every night. Do this in the quiet space between waking and sleep, when your conscious mind relaxes its grip, and your deeper mind becomes like soft, fertile soil, ready to receive whatever seed you choose to plant. Take one memory, just one, and transform it. See them looking at you the way you have always deserved to be seen. Feel their respect. Feel their warmth. Feel the energy between you as something easy and beautiful and right. And then let it go. Release it. Do not grip it. Do not chase the outcome. Simply plant the seed and trust the soil. Because here is what happens when you do this consistently. Their perception of you begins to shift. Not because you manipulated them. Not because you performed something on the outside, but because consciousness speaks to consciousness. Your inner world and their inner world are not as separate as they appear. When you change the story you hold about yourself in relation to them, something in them begins to respond. Something stirs. Something remembers. Not the version of you that was chasing. Not the version that was broken. The version that was always whole. That is not a version you are trying to create. That is a version you are trying to remember. And this is where everything deepens, because you have stopped chasing. You have reclaimed your state. You have gone back into the memories and rewritten them with feeling and dignity. And now you are beginning to sense something. A quiet but unmistakable truth rising up from somewhere deep inside you. A truth that has been waiting for you to be still enough to hear it. The only thing that has ever stood between you and everything you desire is the story you have been telling yourself about who you are, not their decision, not their walls, not the distance or the silence or the time that has passed, none of that. Just one thing, your self-concept, the deep, settled, mostly unconscious belief you carry about your own identity, about your worth, about what you deserve, about whether someone like you gets to have the love you are reaching for. And I want you to sit with that for a moment. Really sit with it. Because most people in your position are focused entirely on the other person. They are studying their specific person's behavior, analyzing their words, trying to decode every action and every silence. And I understand why. When you love someone, their every move feels significant. But here is the truth that will set you free. You have been looking in the wrong direction entirely. Your specific person is not the variable. You are the way they see you, the way they treat you, the way they think of you when you are not in the room. All of it is a direct reflection of the concept you hold of yourself. Not the concept you perform. Not the one you put on social media. The one you return to in your most private moments. The one that whispers to you in the dark. The one that tells you whether you are truly worthy of being chosen, cherished, and fought for. That is the concept that shapes your entire reality. So ask yourself honestly, what is that concept right now? When you think of yourself in relation to your specific person, do you feel like someone they would be lucky to have? Or do you feel like someone hoping, wishing, wondering if they are enough? Because whatever you feel in that quiet, honest moment, that is the assumption you are broadcasting. And your entire outer world, including every thought they have of you, is organized around that assumption. This is not about arrogance. This is not about pretending you have no wounds. This is about something far deeper and far more real. It is about making a fundamental shift in identity, deciding at the core of your being that you are the kind of person who is deeply loved, the kind of person who is chosen, the kind of person whose presence is a gift and whose absence is felt like a missing piece of something sacred. When that becomes your foundation, not your goal, not your affirmation, but your foundation, everything around you begins to reorganize itself to match it. They begin to remember you differently, not because you did anything new, but because you became something new on the inside. Because the energy you carry when you have genuinely changed your self-concept is unmistakable. It does not announce itself loudly. It does not perform. It simply is. And people feel it. Your specific person feels it. Even through silence. Even through distance. Even through every wall they have built around themselves. Because walls were built to keep out the version of you that doubted itself. They were never built for the version of you that knows exactly who it is. And now that you know who you are, now that the foundation has shifted, now that the self-concept has been rewritten from the inside out, there is one more layer to this. One more step that separates the people who see results from the people who stay stuck in the waiting. Most people understand the concept of manifesting. They have heard the words, they have read the books, they have made the vision boards and repeated the affirmations. But then they go right back to living as though what they want has not happened yet. They wake up every morning and the very first thing they feel is the absence, the silence, the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And that gap, that feeling of not yet, of still waiting, of almost but not quite, is the very thing keeping them from what they desire. Because the universe does not respond to your words. It does not respond to your wishes. It responds to your state. It responds to the feeling you are living in, day after day, moment after moment. And if you are living in the feeling of waiting, you will keep receiving more to wait for. This is why you must live in the end, not someday. Not when they text you, not when the signs appear. Now, today, in this moment, you must take the result you desire, the realization, the return. The moment they look at you and know with every part of themselves that losing you was the biggest mistake of their life. And you must live inside that moment as though it has already happened. Feel what it feels like to already have it. Feel the lightness in your chest. Feel the ease in your body. Feel the quiet satisfaction of someone who is not waiting for anything because everything they desired has already come to pass. That feeling, that specific inner texture of fulfillment, is not the reward that comes after manifestation. It is the very cause of it. You do not get the feeling when it happens. You generate the feeling so that it can happen. This is the discipline. This is the practice. Every single morning before your feet touch the floor, before the world rushes in with its noise and its demands, you close your eyes and you inhabit the end. You see them. You feel the conversation. You sense the shift in their energy as the realization washes over them. You live inside that moment fully, completely, with every sense engaged. And then you open your eyes and you carry that feeling into your day like a flame you refuse to let go out. And throughout your day, when doubt creeps in, when the silence feels loud, when the old anxious version of yourself tries to pull you back into the waiting, you return to that feeling. Not desperately, not forcefully, gently, like someone who simply remembers a beautiful truth they had momentarily forgotten. Because living in the end is not a performance. It is not about acting happy when you are not. It is about choosing, consciously, deliberately, repeatedly, to make the fulfilled version of your story more real to you than the current circumstances appear to be. Circumstances are the past. They are the echo of old assumptions, old states, old versions of yourself that no longer exist. They have no power over what is coming unless you keep giving them your attention and your belief. What is coming is shaped entirely by what you are living in right now. So live in the end, not tomorrow. Right now. Walk through your day as someone whose specific person has already had the realization. Speak with the quiet confidence of someone who is not waiting for love, but is already surrounded by it. Move through the world as someone who has already won. Not out of ego, but out of an unshakable inner knowing that what you have claimed in consciousness must by law appear in your reality because it must. That is not hope. That is not wishful thinking. That is the law, and once you truly understand it, once it moves from your mind into your bones, you will never again misuse the most powerful tool available to you in this entire process. And that tool is silence. Not the silence of someone who is hurting. Not the silence of someone who is waiting by the phone, hoping and praying that today is the day they finally reach out. Not the silence of someone who has gone quiet on the outside, while their inner world is screaming with anxiety and desperation. That kind of silence has no power. That kind of silence is just noise wearing a mask. I am talking about something entirely different. I am talking about sacred silence, intentional silence. The silence of someone who has gone so deep into their own wholeness that they no longer need to reach outward for confirmation of their worth. Most people misunderstand no contact completely. They treat it like a strategy, a game, a way to make their specific person miss them by making themselves scarce. And so they go silent on the outside while obsessing on the inside. They count the days. They check to see if they have been viewed. They rehearse what they will say when contact is finally made. And every single day of that so-called silence is filled with the very energy they are trying to move away from. Lack, longing, and quiet desperation. And the other person feels it. Not through any message. Not through any action. But through the invisible thread of consciousness that connects every human being to the people they have shared something real with. They feel the energy behind the silence, and desperate silence does not attract, it repels. But sacred silence, that is something else entirely. Sacred silence is what happens when you have done the inner work so completely that you genuinely do not need to reach out. Not because you are suppressing the urge, not because you are following a rule, but because you are so full, so grounded, so deeply rooted in your own state of wholeness that the need to chase has simply dissolved. There is nothing to chase because in your inner world, everything is already complete. This is the silence that moves mountains. When you are in this state, truly in it, not performing it, something extraordinary begins to happen. The energy you have been unconsciously broadcasting shifts entirely. Where there was once the frequency of need, there is now the frequency of fullness. Where there was once the vibration of someone waiting to be chosen, there is now the quiet magnetic power of someone who has already chosen themselves. And that shift is felt, deeply felt, by your specific person. Because think about what you are to them right now in this state. You are not texting. You are not calling. You are not reacting. You have simply become still. And in that stillness, in that sacred space you have created, their mind begins to move toward you. Not because you forced it, but because nature itself abhors a vacuum. You have created a space, a powerful, charged, intentional space, and consciousness always moves to fill what is missing. Their thoughts begin to drift to you in quiet moments, in the middle of the night, in the space between conversations with other people. Something pulls at them, and they cannot quite name it. They scroll back through old memories. They find themselves comparing. They begin to feel, slowly and unmistakably, the weight of what they let go. That is not coincidence. That is your sacred silence doing its work. So guard this silence. Protect it. Do not break it from a place of fear or loneliness or a moment of weakness at midnight. Every time you are tempted to reach out from a place of lack, return to your state. Return to the end. Return to the wholeness you have been building from the very first moment of this journey. Because your silence is not empty. It is the loudest thing about you right now. It is full of your power, full of your worth, full of the quiet certainty of someone who knows, without any shadow of doubt, that what belongs to them cannot be kept from them. And nothing in this universe is louder than that kind of knowing. But knowing alone is not enough. Knowing must become feeling, and feeling must become a practice, a nightly practice, a deliberate, sacred ritual that you return to every single evening without fail. Because the most powerful moment of your entire day is not when the sun is high and the world is loud and your conscious mind is running at full speed. The most powerful moment of your day is the moment just before you fall asleep. That threshold, that soft dissolving space between wakefulness and sleep, is where the walls come down. It is where your conscious mind, with all its doubts and its logic and its habit of arguing against what you desire, finally loosens its grip. And in that loosening, your deeper mind, the part of you that has no limitations, the part that is connected to every person and every possibility in your world, becomes completely open, completely receptive, like the richest, deepest soil you have ever seen, ready to receive whatever seed you choose to plant. And every night, you have a choice. You can fall asleep the way most people do, rehearsing the day's disappointments, replaying the silence, wondering why they have not reached out, drifting into unconsciousness, carrying the weight of lack and longing. And if you do that, you will wake up tomorrow, and your reality will confirm exactly what you fell asleep believing. Because your deeper mind does not question the seeds you plant. It does not judge them. It does not warn you. It simply grows whatever you give it with absolute faithfulness. So choose deliberately what you plant. Here is what I want you to do. Every night, as you feel yourself beginning to drift, as the edges of your waking world start to soften and blur, you construct a scene, a single, simple, deeply felt scene involving your specific person. Not a long, complicated story. Just one moment, one exchange, one feeling. See them thinking of you. Feel the scene as though you are right there inside it, watching the realization move across their face. The moment it hits them, the moment they understand, with every part of themselves, exactly what they had and exactly what they let go. You do not need to force the image. You do not need to make it elaborate. You simply need to feel it. Feel their recognition. Feel the shift in their energy as the truth of your worth lands inside them, like something they can no longer ignore. And then you let yourself fall asleep inside that feeling. You do not analyze it afterward. You do not check whether it worked. You do not lie awake wondering if it was vivid enough or felt real enough. You simply plant the seed and surrender to sleep the way a farmer surrenders a seed to the earth, with complete confidence that the soil knows exactly what to do, because your deeper mind knows exactly what to do. It always has. The only question is what you have been asking it to grow. Night after night, this practice compounds. It is not a single dramatic moment that changes everything. It is the quiet, consistent, deeply intentional repetition of a chosen feeling, planted in the most fertile ground available to you, that begins to reshape the entire landscape of your reality, including theirs, because consciousness reaches where the physical cannot. While the world sleeps and the logical mind rests, something far deeper remains awake and active. And the impressions you plant in that space travel. They reach. They land in places you cannot see and cannot measure, but will absolutely feel when the outer world begins to reflect them back to you. They will wake up thinking of you, not knowing why. They will find your memory surfacing at the most unexpected moments, during a song, during a conversation, in the quiet of an ordinary afternoon that suddenly does not feel ordinary anymore. Something will stir in them. Something they had buried or ignored or convinced themselves they were past, and that stirring will grow. Night after night, seed after seed, feeling after feeling, the regret will take root. Not a painful, punishing regret that you are forcing upon them, but the natural, inevitable awakening of someone who is beginning to remember the truth of what they lost, the warmth of what they had, the irreplaceable quality of a connection with someone who has now become so whole, so magnetic, so deeply rooted in their own worth, that their absence has become impossible to ignore. You are not manipulating them. You are not controlling them. You are simply tending your own inner garden with such love and such consistency that the fragrance of it reaches them wherever they are. And some fragrances, once noticed, cannot be forgotten. But here is what I want you to understand about that fragrance. It does not come from what you do. It does not come from the scenes you construct, or the silence you hold, or even the nightly practice you have committed to. All of those things are beautiful. All of those things matter. But they are not the source. The source is you, the wholeness. The real, deep, unperformed, unannounced wholeness that begins to grow inside a person when they have done everything we have spoken about today. When they have stopped chasing and started embodying. When they have revised the memories and rewritten the self-concept. When they have learned to live in the end and guard their silence like something sacred. When they have planted their seeds every night with devotion and surrendered to sleep with faith. Something happens to a person who does all of that consistently. Something that cannot be faked and cannot be rushed. Something that has no dramatic announcement and no visible moment of arrival. It simply settles into you one quiet morning like sunlight filling a room. A stillness, a completeness, a sense that you are no longer reaching for anything, because everything you were reaching for has somehow found its way inside you. That is wholeness. And it is the most powerful state a human being can occupy, because when you are whole, truly whole, not performing wholeness but living it, you become something the human mind is irresistibly drawn toward. Not because you are trying to attract anyone, not because you are playing a role or following a formula, but because wholeness is the natural state of all consciousness. And when someone around you embodies it fully, something in every person who has ever been connected to them begins to remember what that felt like. Your specific person begins to remember, not through any message you sent, not through any post they saw, not through anything visible or logical or explainable. They simply begin to feel a pull, a quiet, persistent, unexplainable pull in your direction. It moves through them in the stillness of early morning before the day begins. It surfaces in the middle of laughter with someone else, a sudden uninvited awareness that something is missing. It appears in the space between their thoughts as a face, a feeling, a memory that refuses to stay buried no matter how many times they push it down. That is your wholeness reaching them. Because here is the truth that every teacher before me has pointed toward, and every honest heart already knows at some level, we are not as separate as we appear. The distance between two people is a physical fact, but a spiritual illusion. Consciousness does not stop at the boundary of the body. It extends, it reaches, it touches the inner world of everyone we have ever loved, with a depth that no amount of physical separation can completely sever. And when the consciousness reaching out is no longer colored by need or fear or desperation, when it is clean and full and radiating from a place of genuine wholeness, it lands differently. It does not feel like pressure. It does not feel like a demand. It feels like warmth, like something familiar and irreplaceable, like coming home to a place you did not realize you had been missing until the feeling of it reached you through the silence. That is what your specific person begins to feel. And with that feeling comes the realization, not forced, not manufactured, but completely natural and completely inevitable. The realization that what they had with you was not ordinary, that the person they walked away from, or the person they have been keeping at a distance, was not someone they can simply replace or forget or move past. That somewhere in the middle of their ordinary life, they made a decision that their heart has never fully agreed with, and now that heart is speaking louder than ever. This is not something you can rush. This is not something you can force. But I promise you, and I say this not as encouragement but as absolute certainty, a person who has done this inner work, who has genuinely transformed from the inside out, who is walking through the world in a state of real unshakable wholeness, that person does not get forgotten. They get missed. They get thought about. They get returned to, not because the universe is doing them a favor, but because consciousness always moves toward its highest expression. And you, standing in your wholeness, rooted in your worth, living in the end, planting your seeds, guarding your silence, you are the highest expression of everything your specific person has ever encountered. And deep down, in the place where all truth lives before it reaches the surface, they already know it. They have always known it. And very soon, that knowing will no longer be something they can keep to themselves. So let me leave you with this. You came here today carrying something heavy, a name, a memory, a silence that has been louder than anything anyone has ever said to you. You came here wondering if it is too late, wondering if the distance is too great, wondering if what you had is truly gone, or if there is still something worth holding on to. And I want you to hear me one final time, very clearly, very simply, with everything I have. It is not too late. It is never too late for a person who is willing to do what you have done today, to turn inward, to stop chasing and start becoming, to revise, to rebuild, to reclaim the version of themselves that was always worthy of the love they desired. Most people never do this. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the outside world to change while they remain exactly the same inside. But you You chose differently today. And that choice has already set something in motion that no amount of silence or distance or time can stop. Because the law does not fail. It has never failed. It does not play favorites and it does not make exceptions. It simply responds, faithfully, precisely, inevitably, to the state you occupy. And the state you are choosing to occupy from this moment forward is not the state of someone waiting to be chosen.